cultivate.com for more info.
Well, this month is Mental Health Month, and I want to introduce Jessica Walker with the Stop Stigma Sacramento Speakers Bureau. Great to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is a great time to shine the spotlight on mental illness and how it affects people in the community. Talk a little bit about that.
So I think it's all about conversations, and we need to have more conversations in our community, as well as conversations that we have with our mothers about what postpartum depression looks like, and also to change the face of that. I think a lot of people have this stigma in their minds of what it should be. And with my book, Conversations Before, During, and After Pregnancies That Heal, I kind of break down healing. Healing is helping others, educating, obviously advocating, which I'm doing here, as well as loving yourself. And I think that's a big piece of it. We have to help others learn how to heal. And that's a big piece of it.
So talk about stigma. I hear that a lot when talking about mental health. So talk about that and how are you breaking the barriers with breaking stigma?
So I think with Stop Stigma Sacramento, what we do is we go out into the community. We actually just went to an event this past weekend where we were out talking to kids and bringing the awareness factor to children at an early age about what depression is, what postpartum depression is. I have my shirt here that I walk around and I advocate for every single day. And you talked a little bit earlier about like Google having this whole assistant type thing, right? We have technology now. We have digital media. We have these conversations. I work as a digital media professional or producer aside from this, and that's what I talk about. I talk about how can we start this conversation digitally as well. It doesn't have to be where you physically have to be there, but you can definitely continue the conversation online with social media.
Yeah, and there are a lot of misconceptions when you talk about mental illness, and there is a project, the Mental Illness It's Not Always What You Think project. So what is that, and what is the goal of that?
So the goal of that is to, like I said before, change the face of what we think mental illness is supposed to look like, right? Mental illness is not what you think. I'm sitting here. I've battled with postpartum depression. I've battled with it for about 5 years. And coming from the community where I came from, where everyone is pretty much depressed, it's like, what does that look like exactly, right? It's like we all struggling. We all going through it. So what does that look like exactly? People don't know, and they don't understand that what's happening in the brain is that your neurons are firing. It isn't something that you did yourself. It isn't something you brought upon yourself. It actually is something that's happening inside of your brain. It means that it's not transmitting certain signals. So you need to find healing for that and understand that you can come back from that. That's what the shirt says, right? I'm proof.
You're proof.
I talked about that on my morning show about dealing with mental illness and breaking the stigma. So
absolutely,
how can somebody start that conversation and help break that stigma?
I think the biggest piece of it is awareness, is what we're doing now, right? We're utilizing media to bring awareness to what's happening in the community as well as mental illness in itself. But then also let's look at what stigma is and how that affects you, right? Because you can go through self-stigma. You can go through this whole thing of, I am not depressed. When doctors told me, oh yeah, and like my hair. When doctors told me,
look at the camera.
Fix it, girl, fix it.
Okay? Because people watching it. So, and when we talk about advocacy, you have to show up that way, right? You have to show up and know that, I'm serious about this cause. I definitely want women and mothers especially to understand that when you become a mother, you go from having everything in your control to everything's out of control. And you're like, oh my gosh, what just happened to me? I have this human being that came out of them. I don't even know them, but I love them. Like, what's going on? So bringing it back now to stigma. You go through that self-stigma where you just feel like, when doctors told me that I was depressed, or you're going through depression, I was like, depression? Where have you been at? We've been through slavery, civil rights. We was uplifting, like, no, that's not what happens to us. And that's not what happens to me. I'm not putting myself in that category. But then when I started to research and I started to find out more information, it was my son that actually woke me out of it. It was my son saying, Mom, I see a difference in you. And I said, oh, no way is this going to affect him in his life. Because as a mother, we ultimately just want to protect our kids. So it takes something that kind of draws you out of it for you to go, hey, you know what? I'm telling myself I don't have it. This professional has told me I do. So what do I do? What do I do now? How do I move forward?
There's a lot of great resources out there. One of them, the 211 number to learn more about local mental health resources for the deaf or hard of hearing. You can always call 711.